All right, time to get vulnerable. We shall see where this takes us. Anyways, if you don't know already, my name is Natalie and this is my channel. If you have been subscribed here from the very few people that have subscribed here, well, welcome back and thank you for coming to watch, even if it's just the first 30 seconds of this video. I appreciate everyone and anyone that is able to stop by. If not, I do not mind talking into the void, and part of that is my who gives a fuck 2026 attitude. So that is a shocking start. Did not feel like I was going to start there, but here we are. So the big thing about this video today is starting off my 2026 journey, and that includes talking about why I stepped away from YouTube and on and off from content creation in 2025. So I would say that even though, I'm not going to put myself down just to start the video, but perfectionism and comparison are kind of the thief of joy. And those two things have been something that's difficult for me, but I don't admit to myself. And I think part of the journey to get through that is admitting that that is an issue, not just in content creation, but in doing most things. So that leads me to where I started my journey. And a lot of this means getting back to my roots. And part of my roots included that I played board games, mostly solo, for the pure joy of the hobby as an extracurricular activity from my normal life that wasn't controlled by weather, wasn't controlled by having other people around, wasn't controlled by time of day. And as I started my journey in nursing school, those things really mattered. So I also wanted to get away from screens. Ironically, now I am videotaping myself to go on a screen that people may or may not watch, but here we are. So part of that was what got me into the hobby. And you know when you're really excited about something and you just want to blurt it out to the world, or it's almost all you want to talk about, but everyone around you kind of looks at you like you're nuts because they do not share the same joy? Well, you feel a little weird. So part of me going on Instagram, which was my starting platform, was being able to geek out and be excited about the thing I wanted to be excited about into the void. It was not about making community. And I mean, I'm gonna admit things. This is vulnerability 2026. So I found community, but I will say that I started as a person who's very stranger danger with the internet, and I never met internet people, do not do internet meetups of any kind. I was happy with my friends, my family, the career I was getting into, and everything was nice, spice and sugar. I don't know a phrase that I can think of right now, but that was what I enjoyed and I liked that. So in order to get that off my chest, I threw it into the internet and it spiraled me into the future of content creation. I did find people to geek out with. I even found a job in the board game industry, was invited to things as media, to conventions, and going on vacations by myself that I never would have thought possible. And it brought me a lot of joy, a lot of connections throughout the past few years since 2016, 2017. But then at a certain point, not just myself, but I find other creators in the space. So when you go to a party, you don't necessarily think, one, you're gonna like everybody there. In every space, there's people where you're not going to be particularly close with. And as a more introverted person, although if people meet me in person, especially if I'm talking about something that I'm excited and interested in, most people have seen me as more extroverted, but I need a lot of me time and introvert, like going go in the closet. I mean, I'm out of the closet, but go take some time away in order to recharge my social battery. So at a certain point, these things kind of hit a point where I needed to step back because perfectionism and comparison are the thief of joy. And I felt more so 2024 and going into 2025, it became not just about the joy of gaming, but comparing in a space that seemed to be overflowing with creative individuals who they had better camera skills than I did. They had better technology skills than I did. They knew how to word things better. They could talk better. They had a better vocabulary. And in every aspect, I just felt like really down on myself for some of that stuff. So I did not think that was going to get me to a certain point. But again, vulnerability, we're gonna be that, and hoping that sharing some of my personal journey will help other people in starting to press that record button again, or starting to take pictures again, or write again. Because 90% of people who are like new content creators, especially on YouTube, will stop their channel and maybe never use it again. And the most important thing is getting back to it, especially if you love it. And I missed the connection of loving my hobby and sharing it with people all across the world. And that was my biggest thing. So my advice to you, perfectionism, you don't need to know every single thing about cameras, about microphones, about technology, about lighting. I mean, yes, it took me a freaking minute to get this set up because I don't know a lot of things that I don't know. But at a certain point, you've got to press play. And then, other than my own personal perfectionism and comparison to other people, the state of gaming in 2025 hit really, really hard. The industry had the tariffs that impacted board game publishers, friends who worked at publishers and in the industry, and the state of gaming moving forward after the pandemic boom of board gaming kind of felt like a scary space. And this was just after I came back from GAMA, which my first GAMA, which is an industry convention in Kentucky, but it'll be moving in 2027, was one of the highlights that I've had working in the industry in general. And I had so much hope, so many ideas, so many games were coming out. And then within a month, I think it was, that I lost my job in the industry, the tariffs hit, and the state of friends of people in the industry, but also just people that I met and became friendly with that were in across the border from Canada, kind of, it was a depressing time, let's just say that. And as someone, I was a previous nurse, and one of my biggest issues that I found from being a nurse that I thought was helpful was feeling too much and wanting to do something about it when you have to take care of yourself first before doing that. And I hadn't necessarily taken care of myself while also feeling like I'm taking on other people's emotions, and then not that I could fix the industry, but just the general feeling and tone was not something I necessarily felt like turning the record button on to film. I didn't feel like I had so much joy just from gaming like I used to. And part of that was also the perfectionism and the comparison and my need to set things to a certain standard that I expected myself to meet without giving myself grace of the knowledge gaps of certain things wanting to be a certain way. So that was a big thing. And then with all of that continuing to go on and a long search for where am I going to go with my career, being older and trying to find a space when I thought I had found a space, leading me to many, many applications and interviews that kind of just gave me less confidence and more imposter syndrome and more unhealthy habits to not want to produce content. So after reflecting at the end of 2025 and help from talking it out with friends, being a little bit more vulnerable, I've come back to YouTube as I want to change the script on how 2026 is. So a lot of things are out of my control, but I want to get back to why this hobby brought me joy and it being something that to a degree I can depend on, but also something where I'm trying not to put as much pressure on it as I used to. So we'll be easing in and finding the things that I like to do, but also have knowledge of why the first time I went to YouTube, it didn't work. And part of that was feeling it was a natural progression to get on YouTube and to get on YouTube at a certain point, as it just felt like the next extension of my journey. And of course, like I said, wanting to excel in all different areas. What my advice is to future content creators is pick one or two platforms to kind of pick as your home spot and what you're going to focus on. If you try to do all of the different platforms all at once, then you're going to end up just overwhelmed and unable to continue that. You can do things as more of a personal thing, but I'd say for yourself, pick one or two types of content that you want to do and focus on that. Also, don't put yourself in a position where you're already setting yourself up for failure. So my goal is to have more relaxed time trying to do videos, trying to take pictures, and part of that includes trying to do at least one video a week for my YouTube channel, and they can be as easy as one of these. So let's just talk to the channel and see what happens. I'm not gonna do as many of these. There'll be more board game concentrated content, but for this one, I think it's important to set out where I've been and where I'm going. So planning that out, I now have a planner for writing down little ideas, doing more fun activities. So I put my challenges in there for the year, my most anticipated games of 2026, which I'll do a video for, and my favorite games of 2025, which I really worked to push right until the end of the year to see what games I could get played to give you a proper perspective on my favorite games of 2025. I want to focus on solo gaming in general more this year and trying not to get stuck on details of different things. So give yourself a certain time limit to do a video, to do a concept, whatever you've got, you're gonna post. And I will say it still takes a lot of work even with that, but my editing for a video, I would film for hours and get one of those 10 to 13 to 20 minute videos that you've seen on my channel so far. And instead, I've got a different format I want to try out, and hopefully before the end of the year, my big goal is to get playthroughs onto this channel. They might not be the way I want them to be to start, but we're gonna start there. Other topical, I wanna do monthly recaps or reviews of the games I've played. Maybe we'll do a top 5 or a top 10 of games I've played that month. Sometimes I'll have trips still, hopefully, and just any other things that anyone wants to ask or think about. I can maybe do a video on that if you have any questions about solo gaming or working in the industry. This is pretty vulnerable for me, even though I didn't get into deep dives of things, but yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that's it for now. So this is a weird talking head video. It's always awkward to end a conversation. I mean, I'm in a room by myself talking to an inanimate object. So, I mean, if I was Belle from Beauty and the Beast, this would be simple because that's just her everyday life. But I guess I will try to bring out my inner Disney princess and talk to the camera for next week. So I will see you in the next one. And be kind to yourself because that is definitely a goal of mine for this year. And I wish that to all of you going forward in 2026. And hopefully we all find our joy in board games or whatever it is that you do.